return to play. All right. Let me do one thing real quick before anybody gets any ideas. There we go. All right. So return to play. So phase 2 training protocols. That's our focus for today. So as we go through here, we're going to look at all the phases. Phase 1, which we're still in. We've been in for quite a while. It seems like forever in some ways. But that's where we're not allowed to see each other. We're only allowed to do things on the internet, like we've done with Zoom, with your teams, with the club, with Tommy Thompson, with some of the other guest speakers we've had come in. So that's where we've been living for the last few weeks, months, and that is about to end. And we are going to enter phase 2. All right. So phase 2 is going to allow for 10 people to be on a field at a time. At least that's the way our club is interpreting it. The state is allowed for a few more, but we're basically 10 players per half of a field is the way that we're going to do it, and that includes coaches. So if you have 18 people on your team and one coach, then you're good. You'll have 9 players on one half, 9 players on another half, and a coach in the middle maybe, or 9 players on a field for a certain amount of time, and then another 9 players comes in. Every team will probably do it a little bit differently, but 10 total people on one half of a soccer field. That's how it works. Again, that includes your coaches as well. So that's what we'll be looking to do starting on Monday. All right, and more details. We're not going to go into team by team details on this one. Your coaches will have more information for you on that in the next day or two. But right now, we're just going to kind of focus on what the general guidelines are for us. All right. So if we can get to phase 3, and there's no timeline for it. It's just whenever the governor or the State Department of Health tells us we are allowed to progress to phase 3, it will allow for our full team to train. And it will have still have some protocols that we'll have to follow to try to reduce the spread of COVID-19. But we will be allowed to train in the same space at the same time as an entire group, as opposed to what we'll do now, which is split the groups. Phase 4 will allow for league matches to begin. Obviously, if you do, maybe you do know, maybe you don't know, but MYSA and TCSL have both. Where there's not going to be a league for the summertime, but it will allow for some matches to begin with some spectator protocols. So if we're able to do that, then what we'll do is probably do some stuff with other clubs, play some friendlies or some scrimmages, or maybe within our own club, whether that's against different teams or mixing up of teams and age groups. We will definitely want to do that before tryouts at the end of July, if possible. And then phase 5 is everything kind of goes back to the way it was, and we can go to tournaments, and there's no restrictions on for us, for coaches, for players, for spectators, for anything. It's just kind of back to the way that it was in the before times, before all this happened in late February, early March. So those are kind of the phases that we're going to look to go through. And again, there's no specific time limit on any of these. It's not if we get through it for this many days or this many weeks, then we can move on to the next one. We're just kind of waiting for the governor and for the State Department of Health to kind of give us the go-ahead to progress to the next phase. So if you get impatient in phase 2, like we would love to move on to phase 3 as well, but we can't make that decision, and it's not going to be based on any sort of predetermined time. So just so you guys are aware of that. So what does phase 2 mean? This is a quick video. I may have to get back at this because I don't know if my slide will advance, but this is a quick video the club put together very recently. Hopefully you can hear it. If you have problems with the sound, just let me hear. back to some fun. There we go. So yeah, word is that little film might be up for some Oscar nominations for cinematography, direction, that sort of thing. I had nothing to do with that film. All I did was include the link to the YouTube. So a great job to the people within the club who put that together. So hopefully you got something out of it and understand some of the things that are going on. Basically, if you don't feel well, especially if you have flu-like symptoms, don't come to practice. All right. Even if it's just a little bit, definitely don't. Check in with your coach. Let them know. Don't come to practice. If you feel that way after a practice, then definitely let your coaches know what's going on as well, so that we can kind of keep tabs on that sort of thing. So we'll look here. So what does phase 2 mean? Maximum of 10 players on the field, as we said. So that includes both players and coaches. Players must maintain a 10 feet distance. So that's a little bit more than 3 yards apart from each other at all times. All right. Obviously, you might step into somebody's space for a half a second, but you've got to be super aware of that and then distance yourself again. All right. No contact, so there's not going to be any play, not even small sided. So even though we have 9 players, there's not going to be a 4v4+1 game the way it normally would be played. We definitely don't want any heading initially. All right, we don't want the ball to come in contact with your head. Just to be out of abundance of caution, as the phrase is these days. And then also just very limited use of controlling the ball with other parts other than your foot for right now. Again, that's just in case somebody would sneeze on the ball and it would, something would be on it. We don't want to do that. We don't want to have it touch your chest and then it's close to your chest where you breathe it in. Again, we'll phase that out as we get into it. But the other part of it is most of you haven't hit a long ball in a long time either. So there's really not a big need to immediately be hitting those balls in the air. Most of the time the ball is going to be on the ground. So there shouldn't be a huge need to control the ball with another part of your body. So looking more at what phase 2 means, coaches wearing, I don't know if this is all right. I need to get out of this for a second, guys. Sorry. Because this may not be the right PowerPoint. I don't want that. Let's take this one just in case. Sorry about that, guys. PowerPoint is not really. As you can see, because this is taking forever to open. Okay.
Joe, as that's working, I can talk a little bit about, as you were talking with the phases and how we go outside, and then with the video. So all that information will be sent off to the teams, and also it's also on the website. But yeah, we want to make sure, as players come in that, they put their bags down, coaches have put them in those correct spots. And then, as we go through the phases, and as Joe mentioned, we are in phase 2 as of right now, but that could be, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe less, maybe longer. So we don't know those things. Once we get out into phase 3, which is, having more of a normal soccer practice training session, then we'll jump into some games too. And we have been talking with other clubs too, clubs from either in the Twin Cities or even clubs from other states that are still playing or going to be playing before we will. And so we're kind of excited for that once we get out to have those opportunities to get some games in for us, even if it's maybe some small-sided stuff to start with inter squad as we go. So good thing
downloading a version of it. So again, hopefully this will be back up and running here in a second.
Yeah, so I think the good thing, obviously, you'll see that the diagrams when you get it from your coaches, and it's also on the website. Lucy Witten-Bell looks really nice since it hasn't had anybody be on it for the past couple months. So it should be really exciting to get out and be out there. I know the one thing is it'll continue to do with weather issues, right? Those that will come through your team if there's weather how does training work that way? So it'd be the normal ways we've always done it in that aspects.
Almost there with the download.
There was a couple questions, yes, that were asked to me. Yes, you can use another person's soccer ball. We did get confirmation that you could do that, and that's what Joe was talking about. Maybe not try to head the ball or use your body, but yes. So you're not going to be. The younger teams might be a little bit more in a space. The older teams are going to have groups of people, and then you still need to stay social distancing from each other. But yeah, you can pass the ball. So you can do all those soccer parts other than, having contact with each other. So, which is really nice for us. So we can shoot, we can pass to somebody else. We can work on
About 30 seconds left.
movements, all those type of things. So that was a great question.
Appreciate your patience, everybody.
So, so that was a really good question for that. What we can do there. When we do come in, bags will be farther away from each other. The good things that some of the older teams are going to like, obviously there's no contact, so you don't need to wear your shin guards unless you really want to. So those are probably positives for a bunch of people as we go forward. Any other questions people want to throw into the chat? If they had questions about, kind of how training would look, how that would kind of go from teams. As Joe said, we you would split the team in half.
7.
Right? So so half the group would be on one side, one would be the other. Coaches are going to do it different ways. So some might do it by position, some might do it randomly. But yeah, those are things that we would obviously look to do. So, and the other thing, and I don't know, Joe will touch on it later, but we still will be doing virtual training, also giving people opportunities at different times. We'll still do like the workouts on Saturday. We'll still do goalkeeper training virtual. We'll do some skills stuff. So I know most people are almost done with school, right? Which I'm sure we're all kind of excited about. And then we'll do some things more during the day to kind of keep yourself busy. So you're gonna get plenty of opportunities if you want to do all those type of things, even through training sessions, on virtual. Yep. So a couple other people. No, players do not need to wear masks. It's a great question. Coaches will be, but players do not. Okay. Questions on tryouts. They will be same time. Your coach will probably put it on TeamSnap, but it's the end of July is what the plans are. They could change, but that's kind of what we're looking at. And yes, we are definitely going out June 1st.
Can't hear anything.
A couple other people had that question. Your team might go out on Tuesday rather than Monday, but yes, you will be going outside. So, so as I said, you don't need to wear a mask. That's a great question that people asked. Coaches will, but players do not. And then like I said, then we plan on how it's going to go. Players will be broken in, so you'll have 2 different groups. So if you have 18 on the roster, 9 would be on one side, 9 would be on the other side, and then you would train. But again, like I said, you're never really having contact with each other. So I had a question of, so practice or training, right? Will it be the same amount of time? Probably not right away. It will not. So training might be a little bit shorter. Just so what we're asking everybody is, as you show up, you go to your field, you start warming up, and then you leave your field at that point. So we don't want a lot of people hanging around. So training will be maybe a little bit shorter. Like a lot of the older teams do 2 hours. You're probably only going to do an hour and a half, but we want to kind of slowly get everybody back into the swing of it, because that could be something that would be difficult for everybody just to jump back in. Yeah, so questions of activities, right? Drills, those type of things. They'll look a little different because you won't be in lines. And that would probably be the biggest thing, is that you don't have changes in in the lines. So maybe you do like a pattern passing, or you do the Y passing or something like that. You just won't be in a line. There'll be another cone where people would go to. So so that's a good question too. So they'll look a little different, but relatively the same. The only issue is that you won't be playing like 4v4 or 5v5, and then you won't be in a line. Okay. No, I mean, someone asked, so would you be in the same training group every time? That's up to your coach and you. I would say no. It'd probably be intermixed a little bit. So don't think that this is, it's not like school where you sit down in a chair and then that's your chair for the next 9 months. No, you'll get that opportunity to move around for sure. And then practice, yeah, it will be, every coach will have their schedule, and then it'll probably be pretty consistent. It might be changed a little bit. Some of the older teams might go earlier, and some of the older teams might go later. And like the younger age groups will probably go, normal time, 5:30, 6 o'clock. So someone asked stage 3, where can we do the contact? So basically what that means is that, so we get into stage 3, when you practice, then you can actually play. So you can play 4v4, you can play 9v9, you can do all those type of things. So those are things that you can continue to do. All right.
Nate, thanks. I switched over at one point and saw you were talking. I was like, oh no, I can't hear him. This is not good.
No, so these are great questions. Again,
everybody hear me?
Can you hear me, Joe?
I can't hear anybody.
So these are great questions. If you still have questions, keep sending them off to me. But like I said, stage 3, we can do contact once we get to that spot. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Bill. Yeah. So on Thursday, right, tomorrow, hopefully you've been on some of the Tommy Thompson ones. He will be on again, and he's going to do an actual training session. So what we would like to do, so he's done some in California because that's where he plays. And he had a group of about 250 kids, I believe. And so we want to try to get more than 250 kids on that training session tomorrow. So that's something that we would really like to try to do. So we'll have it on Facebook, social media, all our stuff. Your team snap should have it. If your coach sends it to you, all those type of things, you should be able to get out and be on that. So that's our goal, and that's what his goal is also to see if we can beat that number.
All right, I'm actually back, Nate.
Okay, perfect. Let's go.
Where do you? Did you be covering any more slides, or did you?
No, I didn't. Nope.
Okay. All right, no problem. Yeah, sorry, everything kind of.
No, I was just people had a bunch of questions, so I was just answering them. So.
Oh, perfect. All right, let's get back to where we were. There we go. All right, so what is phase 2? Maximum 10 players. We talked about that. No contact, heading, very limited use. All right, what else does it mean? Coaches should have a mask on. Now, obviously, there's some health reasons why they don't. So, if your coach isn't wearing a mask, then you can ask. But for the most part, we're wearing a mask. Generally, bring your own soccer ball. Use your own soccer ball. We can share, we can pass from one player to another, so that's not really a problem, but generally we want you to use your own ball. Your bags, store those at least 10 feet away. You saw in the video where there were cones laid out. Your coach might have a different system, but generally we want to encourage you to keep your bags 10 feet apart again, just to avoid any potential unintentional contact that causes an issue. Definitely bring and use your own water bottle. That should be something that you do all the time, quite honestly. There's a lot of potential bad things that could go wrong with sharing a water bottle. So you should always do that. COVID, not COVID, always bring your own water bottle. Don't come to practice now. You realize now it's getting a lot warmer outside. Sometimes it's not as warm, but it's really humid. So there's really no excuse ever, but particularly this time of year as it gets hotter, to bring your own water and plenty of water, right? Not just a small little like courtesy water bottle that you get somewhere. So bring a lot of water. No spitting, that includes goalkeepers. Sorry, you're gonna have to find another way to wet your gloves. You have to bring maybe another 4 bottles of water to wet your gloves, and then whatever you need to drink. But none of that gross stuff. I'm a goalkeeper, I know. That's how I wet my gloves. But no spitting on the gloves, no spitting in general on the ground. Just again, out of an abundance of caution. We're not going to issue pennies. There's not a lot of things we can do with pennies, and even if we are, it's pretty clear whose role is what, who is on whose team. So there's really not a lot of need for the pennies. And again, just that phrase again, out of an abundance of caution. Right now, eventually we'll ease back into using pennies again, but for right now, we're not going to use those. And then obviously everybody's going to, like you're used to at the beginning, getting together as a group and talking, and you can still do that, but we're going to have to maintain distance. At the end, definitely no bringing it in all together and, Croix on 3 or whatever it is you say after a session. We're just not going to be able to do it like that. We can still cheer, but we can't get together in that group. We can't, violate that social distancing. So we'll have to maintain that. And again, that'll be a little bit different, but hopefully some teams will find some creative ways to, still promote that idea of being a team and being together while also practicing social distancing. So what will training look like? We'll work on individual technical training. In some groups that you might have an actual defined space where you have to stay in this zone or this box or this grid or whatever. Sometimes there might be more freedom. Some of that is age group based. All right, maybe the younger age groups have a little bit more of that. This is your space, stay in it. But we definitely still need to make sure that we maintain that distance. So, find your area and, generally operate in that area. We might have some pairs, all right, maintaining social distancing. At first, it should really just be passing back and forth. We really don't want players picking up the ball and tossing it to each other. So for right now, it's just passing back and forth. And again, we talked about using or avoiding using different surfaces of your body right now to control the ball. So generally just keep that ball along the ground for right now, and then also building up. If we haven't used those muscles to play those longer balls for the most part, maybe some of you have, but by and large, most of you haven't. So we don't want to start the first day with like smashing shots or hitting long balls back and forth to each other and potentially risking some sort of injury. After all this time to waiting to get back on the field, we definitely don't want you to be to injure yourself unnecessarily and then have to sit out again. And worse, you're going to watch everybody else play while you're sitting on the sideline. So that kind of plays into that. Probably be a lot of pattern work with some predefined movements and or rotations of players. Again, there won't be lines standing at a cone, so we might have to be creative sometimes with our passing patterns. But for the most part, with only the maximum of 9 players, it shouldn't be too difficult. But again, just kind of avoid, if you are supposed to go to the next station or the next cone or the next marker or whatever it is, and you see somebody there, maybe just take your time or take the long way to get there to make sure you maintain that distance. But I imagine a lot of coaches will be working on some passing patterns in their sessions. We'll build into some longer passing and finishing activities eventually, all right? And maybe some game-like activities that provide for social distancing. We'll see some video ideas of that. But again, a lot of that is going to depend on your discipline as players. Like, we want to do things that look more like soccer and feel more like soccer, but at the same time, there's going to be some restrictions that that you're going to have to be mindful of following. All right, and you're going to have to pay attention to some of the details and the instructions and the setup that your coaches provide. So just make sure that you're aware of that. All right, and then obviously everybody's favorite thing, fitness. We're not in the best, we're not in soccer shape for sure, but we also are able to use the ball. So are we going to go, are we going to become a cross country club? No. But there still might be a fitness component. We might do an exercise. You'll see there's some passing patterns that I have in some of the slides that they're passing patterns, but if you watch the speed that the players are working at, they're a little bit more, they're as much fitness based as they are pattern based. So those are the kind of activities that we're going to do. So technical, we'll just take a look at some of that. These aren't things that you will for certain do, but these are just general ideas of things that you may do in your session. So technical, yeah, we have a special message. Everybody, we've been doing a lot of technical training.
Really? Haven't you had enough of these technical training videos
The
yet?
coach helping us out.
Well, there's more
I don't think we
coming your
really
way.
need to watch a lot of technical videos. We don't need to see clips. We've been living that for the past few weeks. With your teams, with the club training, with some of Tommy's sessions as well. So you have an abundance of ideas probably by now for what the technical clips look like. So we're not going to spend any time there. Fitness with the ball. All right. We've been fortunate that we found some really great resources in Europe. They returned to play. Obviously, the professional teams have returned to play, but some youth clubs in some countries have returned to play. So we've kind of stolen some ideas from them. So we're going to look at, this is Red Bull Salzburg, who, if you know, they actually have an American coach, Jesse Marsch. If you guys know who Holland is from Borussia Dortmund, you've probably watched the Bundesliga lately since it's the only soccer that's on. He was just transferred this January from Red Bull Salzburg. So some ideas for running with the ball, all right, or fitness with the ball, all right. So you see players, different movements, not just running a straight line, but cutting back. Little technical aspect where they have to run with the ball across, back to a starting point, and then serve the ball across to a teammate who then has to do the same kind of a thing, going back the other direction. So these are the type of things that we may do. Again, that you might not do this exact exercise, but like this is the type of thing. You can see there's a component of running with the ball, playing a longer pass. All right, so we want to make it relevant to the game. All right, so another idea here, another kind of a obstacle course, so to speak, or just change of direction, sprint. You focus on the guy in the middle of the screen because you can see him with the ball better. Just runs with the ball, plays it back to his teammate, controls it, zigzag through, or L shape through there, through the runs, collect the ball, and then it's a sprint. And obviously, if we've got two groups on a field, we can keep social distancing, and we can make this into a competition as well. You can make it a personal competition for time for yourself to see if you improve. But then we also could add in that component of competing against another team. So that's another idea there. All right, this one's just a little obstacle course here. See a player right here at the bottom. He's dribbling through the cones, around the sticks. This looks like one of Joaquin's practices, or his foot tech sessions. Maybe you see there at the top of the box, and they get a ball back and they get to shoot. They see the little goals. You maybe can see the little goals tucked in the corner of the bigger goal. We're not going to have little goals out there right away, but obviously it's just, if you're aiming for the corners, that's something that we can do. Whoop. You froze. There we go. And they just change it here. They just go slalom through the sticks, play it off the rebounder, cut inside of the mannequin, and then they're actually shooting on a goalkeeper now. All right, so again, this is a little bit of fitness with the ball, but obviously there's some finishing in it as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be finishing it. Maybe you could be passing that ball back to the start point, and your next teammate goes through the little obstacle course. Again, just kind of another little obstacle course here. There's a lot going on in this one. All right, but again, these are the types of things that you might see. All right. Coach is doing. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Go back. This one is got a little cool finishing one to go into the middle there. Coach is going to shout out a color. If you look at the small goals, you can see they have pennies of certain colors tied onto them. So they receive the ball, coach is shouting a color, and then again, it could be a competition to see which team finishes more balls in the goal. If they receive, have to open up their body. They have to sprint back through those gates. So again, kind of combining a bunch of different things there. Obviously, there's a technical part of shooting, but then there's the fitness part. Here they have to take a first touch to get into that grid into the middle, and then out. All right, and wait for the coach to call the color, all right, and they've got to try to finish. So again, just some ways we're going to try to be creative about, you know, this is going to be down to you. We can come up with something like this or activities like this that are fun, but if players don't want to do the work and, you know, hey, I'll rather play a game, but right now we can't, so we've got to compete and have fun whichever way we can. There's a little technical circuit they did. All right, the coach is out of their hands. So the first week or two, we might have somebody serving that ball with their feet. If you notice, like right here, that might be somebody serving with their feet. Same thing here. We could have somebody doing something. This could be running with the ball instead of just running. Out of the ladders, you could be doing something as well. But again, this is something that if you see something like this, don't be surprised. This is what we have. We'll maybe you might do this, something like this once a month in your sessions. Maybe you've never done it, but given kind of the limitations that we have right now, this is kind of some of the activities that you can expect. Passing patterns, there's all kinds of different ways that we can look at passing patterns. So here's one, they just play a ball into the center, all right, using a three-player combination, all right. So just playing it in there, good, playing it into the center, lay it off, all right. So there's one idea, the pattern. This one's a little bit more positional in the game, just in a hexagon. Players are just unmarking from that defender, from that mannequin, all right, opening, receiving, and playing. You notice they're not rotating, so there's no issues with social distancing there. But notice they're trying to make it realistic. All right, here's a little bit of a combination, so they can just change it up, but again, maintaining that social distancing. All right, but you notice the quality of the passes. All right, you notice they're focused. Like you can tell by their body language that like they're taking this, you know, seriously to get back into things. Of course, then that guy just plays a terrible pass, but they're just different patterns, different variations. All right, so this is one operating in the center of the field. And then obviously they start to go the other way. So you can go, you know, they're going one way to the left. Now they're going over to the right. All right, here's another little one. Little athletic action here, a Y circuit. All right, I've definitely seen some coaches do this, so some of you should be really familiar with this. Tons of variations. And again, you notice how they're able to keep that distancing. All right, you've got the two players there at the bottom, but that would be one of those situations where we would ask, hey, just be a little bit smarter about the timing of arriving where there might be a second player. Just wait or take a different pathway. All right, so you can just a little diagram there of it. Again, notice the speed that they're operating at. Notice how seriously they take it. If they make a mistake, they just get back into things. All right, so this will be important. This will be a challenge. All right, physically we're going to be challenged because we haven't been training at the same type of way that we're going to be challenging now. And then mentally, it's going to be a different challenge. And there might be times where you get frustrated and you just have to go with it. It's all part of getting back on the field. If you're not making mistakes in training in the next couple of weeks, especially as you do more complicated things, then you're probably not working as hard as you could. All right. Another idea of a pattern. The I-ax, this is a little bit more positional, like center backs here, working with midfielders. You see the two players in the middle here are like central midfielders. All right, working back, center back, playing to center back, into other midfielder, lay it off, and play it forward. All right. So more functional, might be very specific to how your team wants to play out of the back. Important that we don't just kind of blow this off. This is a great way to kind of get some movement that becomes more automatic in terms of how we want to progress the ball up the field. And then here's another quick variation. Just finding into that higher player. Some of it might be free. That might be like, hey, every player needs to touch the ball when it goes from one side to the other. So that might be something your coaches do, or it might be more set. It needs to go from this player to this player to this player to this player. But again, you notice the social distancing. They're able to keep that social distancing there. So that's another example. And then this last one is Universidad de Chile. Be the Chile coach. You see they're just working a little bit more specifically on playing out of the back. There's our back four circulating. Here's our two midfielders. They play in a one midfielder who plays diagonal to the other midfielder. All right, and then they find the fullback. So that's one pattern. All right, and then they just restart it. So like midfielder has it, has to go back, finds the fullback, goes around, finds the center back, finds his center back. Watch this player here. Watch his timing. All right, of his movement. All right, again, this is stuff that we can really focus on in the training sessions, being very specific about where we move, how we move there, when we move there, or why we move there. So again, focus on this player right here where the cursor is. So it's going to go to this center back. He's not moving yet. It goes to this center back. First takes that first touch, and now he changes pace and really comes in and asks for the ball. All right, and then he moves in here to drop. All right, because they want to rotate a little bit. So again, these little details of whatever your coaches are asking for, pay attention to them. Don't just go through the motions that go through the motions. We can get a lot of value out of this time, out of these training sessions. And people have been telling you that for a while, the technical stuff. Hey, this is all we have. Put the time in. So this is just the next phase of that. So we can become a little bit more tactical and understanding what we're doing. So make sure you ask questions like, hey, coach, am I doing this right? Is that the right time? Is my body shape right? That sort of thing. All right. Let's disable animation. There we go. All right. And there's a couple patterns in there. So then, we went there. So we can combine the fitness and the patterns. All right. We can combine the two. All right. So maybe. Sometimes it doesn't want to work right away. Nope. Let me just do this. Oh, yeah. Hold on one second. That PowerPoint not responding. I had a feeling. Just a couple more slides, guys. I know this ran a little bit long because of my technical difficulties, so I appreciate you guys hanging in there. I think we've got this slide. We've got 3 more slides as soon as this slide that wants to work. Right now, I've got the Rainbow Wheel of Death, or the PC version of the Rainbow Wheel of Death. No pretty colors to look at. There we go. All right. Let's see if it works. It wants to work this time. Where's my cursor? Hello, cursor. There we go. There you are. Yep. So you can see this player sprint, receives the ball first touch, comes close on one side, comes close on the other side from the outside, plays it back one touch. All right. Detail would say you should play that ball on his outside foot. It should be outside foot. Yep. Gets around. Outside foot there, good. Outside foot there, sprints away, around, receives out on his inside foot. Should be his left foot, but maybe he's right foot or detail. If we're doing this fast, right, as fast as possible, you notice they get one goes, one rests, and one is serving. All right, so this would be stuff where we're still working with the ball, all right, but we are also focused, have a little bit more of a focus on the fitness aspect of it, all right. We can skip to the end here. Again, focus on that. Finally, we see somebody with a left-footed pass. This is Cholos from Liga MX, working again. And you can see this is pretty a basic pattern, but you see this speed that they're operating at. All right. And think about, we would only have 9 players max on the field, so we can really go enough where players aren't getting on top of each other. All right. But if we jog through it like that kind of did, then maybe we're not getting out of it. But then if we see some of these players who are really flying through here at full speed, all right. So that first pass is going through the closer defenders. It's going through this passing lane into a player on the run. All right, and now we're going to go same thing. Just progress here a little bit. And I just play one. Before it was just dribble out. Now it's just 2 passes. See if we get to another progression. Oh, yeah, this is a nice progression. I like this. So now the player is going to dribble. This player is going to sprint through this gate. The pass is going to go through the other gate. All right. So again, notice the speed that they're working at. All right. That group, again, a little bit lazy. All right. This group a little bit lazy, but the first few groups, all right, operating at speed here. This is just a cue. So one of these players is going to make the run. You notice it's not the player from the same side each time. All right, and then the pass goes through. So just back and forth, and see the player further from us that time made the sprint. This time I think it's the player furthest from us made the sprint again. This time I think it's the one who's closer to us that makes the sprint. Maybe not. Nope. There we go. But again, we just got to read the cues. What's the movement of our teammate look like before we go? All right. So again, we can really focus on the sprint. This one is nice. The pass that leads them out. All right, and then a pass immediately in behind on the outside of the defenders. So again, still have the ball, but if we jog through this, we don't get a big fitness component. If we're sprinting at max speed, then we definitely get a nice fitness component out of it for sure. So there's one more, same group. Actually, this is FC Dallas. This is the same coach from the last one, or the same fitness coach from the last one, but this is when he was working with FC Dallas. So again, it's just a 3-player combination. All right, little 3-player combination. So it goes up, lays it off, and they play it through. So again, if we're working at full speed, this is a passing pattern. It is technical, but really, if we're operating at a really high speed, it can be a little bit more of a fit component to it. Especially again, we only have 9 players, so this 3 groups of 3 players. You got to get at top speed. Right? So again, just other ideas for, and that might be a question you ask coaches. Coaches, are we focusing more on the technical side right now, more on the tactical part, or are we focusing more on the fitness? Because your coach, I'm going to guess, has a good reason. All right, they might have that. All 3 of those components might be there, but they might want to focus on one of them. And if you're not sure which one, I don't think they'll have any problem with you asking. In fact, I bet you they'll love it. So some finishing. This is what everybody wants to go to. How much of this we do the first week? We don't know. You can tell these guys are just getting back to it because I don't think a single player from the middle hits a shot. All right, so you notice again, just 4 players involved here. All right, let's start again. I'll fast forward here to the top. The player just dribbles at the mannequin, cuts one way or the other, shot. All right, missed. This player's cutting in, taking a shot from an angle, trying to bend it into that far corner, and then we play a ball here for a cross, and the 2 players who took a shot are now in to try to finish. All right. Similar activity. This is just more of a ball from a dead cross. So 3 players are in the middle here. Again, the challenge of make sure that we're social distance from each other, and it's just making the correct runs into the box. Who's going where? Who's attacking front? Who's attacking the top by the penalty spot? And who's hanging out on the back post? All right. You notice the balls are dead. So really, it's about the movement of these players. All right. Maybe your coach changes it and says this player has a ball and takes a touch, and that's the cue. All right. But this could be a competition. So these 3 players could be going. The other 6 could be resting, or 2 of them are serving, and then another group of 3 comes in, and who can score the most goals? Of course, a lot of it depends on whether or not your servers at the outside are good or not very good. So another finishing variation, so ball gets played wide, and then they just play it across in right around, if we remember our finishing zone, just right around here. Coming in from that kind of central cross position. All right, so not like a traditional cross that was whipped in like the last one. All right, so ball played in, opens up, plays it out wide. player comes in for that diagonal ball in the first time finish. All right, so again, different kind of patterns like this. Again, focusing on the detail. All right, focusing on the details of what's happening and not just going through the motions. It'll be a big part of it. All right. This one, again, kind of incorporated later, some longer ball. So a longer ball in, longer ball out wide into the area, player to control. And then you have two players who are in here to cross going far post, and then a coach serves the ball into the one player who did not receive a ball, a diagonal cross in the box from a similar area to that last one. Again, long ball in. Notice there's two players right here. The cross is going to come in here to the back post player. And then the coach is over here to the left of the screen and plays a diagonal ball in here for the second player to get it. So both players get a shot off on goal, which is nice because sometimes if you're the player who never receives the ball, then you never get any repetitions. And then this last one, again, it's FC Dallas. You see a little combination. The video on this is not super great, but just a little bit of a rotation. Well, apparently it's not going to. Just going to skip. I'll skip that one. I can show it to you if anybody wants it. This is a little game. Oh, maybe I'm going to have to go out and come back in. Let's see if this works. These are a couple of social distancing games, so I'm hoping you can get this to cooperate with us. So you have to just pay attention to the details. All right, in this. There we go. This is Valerenga. This is a Norwegian ball. So just a 1-to-1. Both players have the ball. A ball is stationary. One player is the leader, so they can touch it. They pick which side they want to go to. You can see the little gates right here, the midfield line. So you see this player touches it, and this player's got to try to follow. So again, incorporating some level of competition, even though we're not allowed to compete. I would go to the PL switch. So the players on the side, the coaches are switch. Again, those are operating. So switch. That's
Beat. Beat.
So again, if we're walking through this, we're not really getting a whole lot out of it. This is a cool little game, 4-goal game. You can't see the fourth goal. It's over to the right of the screen now. So the objective is we use 2 players closer to us. Players they're trying to score on goal. Again, this is not quite soccer, but it's a little bit more like soccer. A little bit more challenging. We're just trying to mix direction. Move the ball quickly enough. We don't have the middle goals out there right away. So the defenders have to look behind them. Also have to worry about a little bit right. Gotta be thinking about that. Very complex. So again, some coaches, some of us are all, we're going to try games like this. If we could just make a little change, it could be a little bit better. This is Salzburg. This is a little 3v1. So you notice one thing I want you to notice, and this will probably be a big part of rondos if we play them. Notice these cones. The defender has to stay inside these cones, and the attacking players have to stay outside the cones. So you're not going to see a lot of pressing from defenders. It's going to be more about protecting passing lanes. Outside players may have a touch restriction because obviously if the defender can't come press you, then you don't have a lot of pressure to play quickly. So anyway, so the objective here, 3v1, and at some point the coach is going to yell go, and then they're going to go attack the goalkeeper and try to score a goal. All right. It's just 3v1. There's no sound, so you're not going to be able to hear it. The defender wins that one. Defender wins it again. So even in that zone, so the players on the outside are going to have to move a little bit. Yep, there, coach said go, and now we go off and have a shot at goal. All right, so somewhat realistic, a way to add some finishing in. Obviously, we could change the position of where this little rondo is happening. All right. Again, nice little open up. And this is where maybe they're still getting into it. So you see that player slowed down a little bit. So that might be a thing. So for 5v2 again. So you see that cone grid inside. So this is where the defenders have to stay. And then on the outside, you notice all of the attacking players or possessing players there. So just a typical 5v2 rondo. All right. And you notice also that there's a midfield line. So the two defenders have to stay on their own half as well. So they're not crossing over. So you notice this player never goes over to that other half of the field, and vice versa for this player. All right. So again, we can still do things like rondos if that's something your team does a lot. We're just going to have to change up how we do them. Another way might be to put something in the middle where we have a ball or a cone or a ball on a cone or something where we can knock that ball off. So you have to defend it a little bit. All right. I might have a couple more. We have 3 more. This is actually right here. That's actually the coach, Jesse Marsh. Used to play for the U.S. national team, played for a couple MLS teams. Chicago Fire, probably the biggest one, where he won an MLS championship. You can see him jumping into the rondo there. So again, we have the same idea where it's split. So now it's just a 4v2. So it's a little bit more challenging for the players on the outside. They have to move a little bit more to support because there's one less player. See the coach there talking about providing an angle over here. All right, but again, this is what I say we have to pay attention. If we can keep players in their space inside of those cones and not stepping out here to press the ball, that's going to be a challenge for you defensively because it's going to be a little differently, but you got to think a little bit differently about defending. I can't go press. So how can I defend? It's not a case of if I can't press, I can't defend. It's like, no, there's times in a game where you can't get close enough to your opponent, but you still have to figure out a way to defend and make them predictable. So this is kind of your challenge is something to work on right now in training. All right, a couple more. This is just, fly through this one. This is just a typical 5v2. There's little cones. See the 2 yellow cones there. If the defenders win it, they can score by playing the ball through those. But this is kind of near the end of their training because you can see them starting to be able to get a little bit closer. See them pressing just a little bit more. So this might be something, this is not something we'll do week 1, but as we go along, we'll allow defenders to get a little bit closer. And then this is a nice little game as well. So this player is restricted to this zone. This player is restricted to this zone. This player has to stay outside the cone. So these are the attacking players. These are the defending players. All right, and the attacking players are trying to score on this goal. This is a cool goal. They don't have them available yet in the U.S. yet, but they're basically full width, but they're shorties. I think they're 3 feet tall. Hey, so you can see they're just figuring out a way to create a shot. All right, figuring out a way to, and maybe they could open their body more. There we go. Opens his body, plays his shot in. All right. So again, just different ideas. This kind of looks like soccer a little bit. Obviously, there's some restrictions, but you know, it's competitive, all right, and it's closer to the game. So again, this is stuff that we want to eventually be able to progress to. So yeah, that was it. Again, really sorry that we ran into those technical difficulties. Unfortunately, it's the first time we had it this bad. So appreciate your patience. I don't know if there's